You're tuned into The Collective Voice, thought-provoking interviews co-hosted by young adults, fostering deep faith through courageous questions. Welcome to the conversation. Greetings, everyone. I am Reverend Phil Dickey, and I'm grateful to be here with you on this episode of The Collective Voice. And Cece is here with me as well. And Cece is once again going to introduce our guest because guess what? It's another ELCA pastor, which there's a theme here, but I'm totally I'm great with the theme because they've been phenomenal conversations. So, Cece,
ELCA in the house.
That's right.
Yes, as always, I'm Cece, and I'm delighted to welcome a new friend of mine. New because, I don't know, we connected over the fact that we're both ELCA pastors and our husbands are both lawyers. In January, Claire? Is that right? February? We have with us today...
That's a lot to connect over, though, right? I mean, that's a pretty big...
Oh, my God. It's like a soul friend.
It's a small group.
Yeah. It's just been a gift from God, as I truly feel. Claire is the pastor of the Lutheran Church of Our Savior on Long Island. She kind of splits her time with her husband in between Long Island and New York City. She also leads Gather Long Island, so we're connected through the Gather network. Claire's a deep thinker, a creative person. I don't know, an awesome friend for someone that I've known for 2 months. But I don't know. We're just so excited to have her, and this episode, which likely will be focused on belonging, because as she told me, I quote, "That's my jam."
What does that mean? Why is belonging your jam? I'd love to know why.
I feel like belonging is a beautiful word that describes something that is elusive in modern life. Belonging isn't just joining something or being excited about something, or I feel like we overuse the word obsessed, even though we actually don't dive that deep into that many things. We're I'm obsessed with this thing that I saw on the internet for 10 seconds, but belonging still clearly communicates that you have found a community where a deep part of yourself is at home, and that's all I want to focus on.
That's all. I love that. Let's just focus.
If every single action that I took would lead to the deepest parts of ourselves being at home, that's it for me.
So I wonder then, Claire, and this is, I don't know, I don't think it will surprise you, but it's kind of a woo-woo question. If you're thinking about the deepest part of yourself, right? And you're thinking about that deepest part being at home, walk with me. What does that house look like? How does it feel? Where is it? You know what I'm asking?
Yes. This connects for me because I was just having a conversation. I've been doing a lot of community organizing recently with folks that are supporting communities who are being most targeted by ICE or are intervening when folks have been deported. And I was talking to a social worker about what it's like to especially work with children after their families have been torn apart. And she was talking about how you come back home to yourself after that has happened and you're 9. And that is such a human question. When the worst thing has happened, how do you come back home to yourself? And in that conversation that I was having with this social worker, she was talking about how you entertain grief. When something terrible happens, grief becomes a visitor in your life that you have to be hospitable to. And she was saying that a huge part of her work that she's been doing with these kids in this traumatic situation is to ask them, if grief comes to visit you, where do you bring them into your home? Where do they sit? What spaces can they have? What spaces are yours? As though they're a friend who's staying with you for months. But her reflection on what to do with grief led to a lot of families and children constructing actual altars or places of memory and connection that they could literally themselves visit in their home and direct their energy and emotion towards. And that metaphor for me of having a place where you can pour yourself, a ritual or a beautiful thing that helps you let go the burdens that you're carrying. To me, that is what it's like to be at home in yourself. Not that things are always safe or always good and that trauma doesn't visit, but that you always have strength in yourself to create the rituals and routines and practices and invite the people that can help you do those things. So I guess like to me, like being at home is having tools to relax, to let go, to process emotions, things like that.
Wow. Well, I'm loving this because I think it was just our last episode, right, with Taylor, where we talked about Brandi Carlile's album, Returning to Myself. Are you familiar with this, Claire?
I'm so sorry to say that I'm not, because it sounds awesome.
It might be right up your alley, because it's a lot of things you're just saying. The album's really good. And there's a beautiful song on there about it's returning to myself. It's the only thing to do, right? Like that's what she says in the song. But we just dove right in, right? Which I love. I so love. But
you said we only have 45 minutes.
We only have 45 minutes, right? So there's no time to do small talk here. No, we love small talk too. But
Claire and I like full on had coffee. Like what was that? A week and a half ago, and we were both like, screw small talk. Like let's go right to it.
But okay, which I totally appreciate. And have you always been this way, Claire? Or like what got you to the point where it's like the world's on fire? Yeah. I'm working on community organizing and social workers who are dealing with children who are inviting grief in as a guest, you know, like that. I mean, that's, and I'm not saying that I'm saying that's a beautiful thing. And it's the reality that we're living in right now. And like in the first 3 minutes of a podcast, we just dove right in on it. I think it's so important because that is what's happening in the world around us. And like, do I want to talk about the March Madness and basketball? Like, sure, it's fun and it's great, but ultimately, like, do I really care about, am I going to remember next year who actually won March Madness? Probably not. And so like, this is stuff that really matters. What got you to the point of being like, small talk, whatever, let's get to the point. Let's talk about what's really happening in the world.
I mean, other than the gift of like some type of really specific neurodivergence, I mean, you're like, how have I always been like this? I'm like, sometimes I wish I was different, but no. No, I just think.
Sure. I mean, that's true also, right? Like that's can be part of it as well.
No, I'm teasing you and mostly myself, but I think the answer is that in order to go deep, I think sometimes it helps me to think about people that are like living in a deep place, like connect with my neighbors that are always there because they have to be, and think about the stories and the questions that are animating them and try to tap into like, okay, what is the deep water near me? Like where are people really figuring out how to navigate this? And I think I always find a lot of purpose and like aliveness in my faith by being connected to the real and deep questions that are going on in my community.
I know for you, this community it's not new. Like you've been a part of it for a little while now, but this is still your first call. You're not from Long Island, not from the East Coast even, right? Like Chicagoland area. So can you share a little bit about the transition of, you know, the changes that you've had, the places that you've lived, and how like you are coming to home in yourself, like creating a home, while also like navigating, you know, weekends in the city, weeks on the island. There's a question in there somewhere, Claire. I feel like you probably have it.
Let's go. No, I hear you. I feel you. I'm with you. I was like, this is the perfect chance for me to give any context to any listener about who I am or why I'm answering these questions. But I basically, I am from Chicago, the headquarters of the ELCA. Everything comes back to the mothership of the ELCA in this world of CC. But I'm from Chicago. It's funny that we're talking so much about home because I feel like as a person, as a kid, I always knew that I wanted to like go explore the world, which leads us to another soundtrack item, which would be the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks, I guess now, Wide Open Spaces. Do we know this one yet?
Love it. Love it.
Love it.
Yeah, but I feel like that song, when I finally found it in my life, I was like, oh yeah, no, I always knew that I wanted to be a person who like left home and explored the world, and being a pastor to me was a way to do that because I knew I would be grounded in tradition. I knew that I would have a shared language and experience wherever I went, but I also knew that I could leave home and also go into the world and explore new things and meet new people and communities. So I went to seminary on the East Coast at Yale Divinity School and was always committed to being a parish pastor. And because of the ELCA basically runs like an NFL style draft for your calls. like a bishop has a pool of candidates with certain types of skills that they present, and then they have a pool of openings or teams that are churches that are looking for a specific skills match, and they basically like send draft rounds out to each church of a few candidates to see like how it all is going to come together.
That's an amazing explanation. Can we just pause and that's beautiful.
It's amazing explanation, and it's also literally referred to as the draft.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, welcome to our world. So through that process, I knew that I wanted to be in New York. So that's where my husband was taking the bar exam. And I didn't know where in Metro New York that would be. And for me, it ended up to be a first call as a young 26-year-old solo pastor at a little church on the South Shore of Long Island, which is the ocean side. I mean, we're split up from the ocean by Fire Island, but the ocean side of Long Island. And yeah, I had been here literally a single day before I took this job. So all these questions about home are hilarious because I'm like, yes, I'm coming to you from my home that is like a very new transplant. I've been here for 3.5 years. And that whole time I've been like complete blank slate. Like I knew no one, I knew nothing. I had no relationships here. I took this call and just like opened the book and started to figure it out. So I'm definitely like, it's funny that we end up focusing on home because home has been my project to like build over the last few years.
I like to use the word build because I do think that that's a big, we're on this home idea. It's like building a house thing. I think it's a good image though of, we hear a lot from young adults that it is a season of transience, right? Like young adults are often on the move. And so finding belonging whenever you're moving regularly can be really hard. So what was the process for you as you got into this space? Obviously you're a pastor. So in some ways you have built-in community as a pastor, but also that can get complicated too, right? Because it's like built-in community with an asterisk, right? As a pastor, So yeah, right. Exactly. What did that look like for you as you really found belonging in the church and beyond?
So I love church. Like I cannot tell a lie. I think a huge secret to being a parish pastor is like you have to be in some ways addicted to the high of a Sunday morning. Like it's got to feel so good to you. And I have that. I totally I love the Eucharist. I love like standing and hearing people sing, like floating all around me. Like there's just like no more euphoric feeling to me than that experience of worshiping in a community. And I think that I have always found that I am at my healthiest when church is a grounding and foundational and central community, but I also have many other friends and relationships and volunteer systems and everything. Like it's this weird, crazy map of resources and people and experiences. Like I think the more that you're cycling through different, amazing, passionate places, the better everything is. So for me getting here, I was just on like a crazy mission to make friends. And I like threw myself into every possible space where there might be people at all like me. And Long Island is known for aging. Like it's an island that is actually like rapidly aging faster than almost anywhere else in the US. So it's not like a place that it's super common to be a dynamic young person starting out because it's very expensive. It's like an original suburb. So everyone bought houses forever ago and are still in them and but I was like, okay, well, this is an exciting project then. And so I just threw myself into like every possible activity that I could where I could meet other people, which included a yoga teacher training at this kooky little studio that I picked because it was called Salt of the Earth. And I was like, if it's got a Gospel of Matthew reference, like this has got to be a good sign.
Sign me up, I'm in.
Yes. Which then people I met there led me to a knitting community, and then people in the knitting community led me to a yoga studio, and then people in the yoga studio led me to a farm, and all these things. Like every single place that I went, I would just be like, I'm new. Actually, I should have started, but the craziest thing that I did was I went to first 2 weeks I was here, I went to a free yoga class at the library, like consecutively for a while, leading up to the point at which I was planning a housewarming party for myself. And I made flyers with my picture on them and the address of my house and the date of the party. And I passed them out to every person in the yoga class. And it was just like, if you want to come, I'm trying to move in and meet people. And then I also put them in like every single one of my neighbors' house. It was like everywhere I went for that week, I brought this flyer with like my picture and this party and gave it to everyone. And people came and I started making friends. And I didn't connect necessarily or stick with those people. And I feel like that's a huge thing that we all learn. It's like not always the first people you meet that are your forever people, but somehow this like weird cosmic boomerang happens where if you put yourself out there and connect with anyone, eventually you'll be led to your people. So I did those crazy things. And then the other craziest thing that I did when I was here, Patchogue has like a very vibey young, Patchogue is the town where I live on Long Island, has a very vibey young professional community that does a lot of like mixers and bar related hangouts, but they had one which was at a new pizza bar, and they were having a person from the local burlesque exercise studio coming to dance at this mixer. And I was like, this is just fascinating. Like I need to see, like, where else in the universe am I going to see like a burlesque pizza mixer for young adult professionals? Like, this is like a Patchogue specialty. So I went and I made a best friend there. It was so cool. She's an anesthesiologist, like a really also normcore person. But we were both like so intrigued by this thing. So this is all to say, I tried like every possible method and put myself into like radically interesting spaces to do everything I could to meet people, and eventually it worked.
Gosh, I love that. And like, I don't know, like the unabashedness of it, right? We had a mutual friend of ours, Owen Copps, on the podcast like very early in the new year when I first started, and he moved to Austin in the fall, and one of the things that we talked with him about was like making friends. He like, Owen, what are your tips? And he was like, you just gotta do it. Like you just gotta put yourself out there, right? And I hear you saying the same thing. Like, find something that interests you, like, and maybe not even interest, but intrigues you, like makes you wonder, like, oh, burlesque pizza bar opportunity, like something's gonna come out of that. I don't know what that something is, but I want to be there to see. And that's like a brave thing to do, right? Like, too. So I hope our listeners are encouraged by like a similar story repeating itself, you know, different way, different place, different perspective, but that encouragement of like, no, get out there, see what's going on in your community and show up, and try not to be too afraid to do it. I wanted to
encouragement and just like courage, right? Like the courage that it takes to do that, and also like receive the encouragement from somebody who did it and like has found really good things on the other side.
Well, and also on a spiritual level, the funny thing is that like I did all those things to make me like a healthy person so that I could be a healthy pastor. Like I wanted the support systems and the passion projects and the weird experiences that I could bring back to make my work really genuine and like healthy. But also it starts to like be this crazy circle, because the more I got engaged in these things, now it's like my yoga studio is running a food drive to bring it back to the church. And this farm where I volunteer as a greeter for my CSA is going to be donating like all of their extra vegetables to the food pantry. Like, it's like, and it's not because I'm their pastor, but because I'm Claire and they trust me and know me. Like, it all ends up being this crazy cycle of like giving and receiving. And it's both nourishing to me, but ends up coming back to like my work and my spirituality, because it's like me authentically living that out. So that's something that I've discovered only the more I get to do my work, that these things that I found that fed me and were passion for me could also end up coming back into my deeper spiritual path that I'm on as a pastor.
There's something so holy about that, and like circular and, I don't know, abundant, and all of that I think has to come from God. Personally, there's a piece of my own personal theology. I want to ask you a little bit more, Claire, like knowing a smidge about you, and like we did like a little bit of prep work thinking about this episode. One of the things that you wanted to talk a little bit about was knitting, and like this opportunity that you're having through that. Like, can you tell us like about your trip that you're taking coming up, And I don't know, like, how that intersects with you as a person. You as a pastor, you said that you ended up bringing a sheep to your church through this community. Like, it sounds amazing, and I want to hear more. And I'm sure the people listening also are gonna like love this opportunity.
Yeah, so I feel like this all comes back to this question of like passion and like what are the things that feed us all, that energize us all, so that whatever our work is, our vocation, our calling, we have the like spirit in us to pursue it boldly. And for me, some type of art or using my hands to make things has always been essential to me. Just in case there wasn't a natural way to bring this all together, I did wear a sweater that I knit for this call just to make it
I was going to ask if you knit that.
Well done.
Amazing.
Yeah, so now I was like, it's unavoidable that we have to address it. But the funny thing is that I was wearing this at my church right before I came, and a beloved congregant of mine who is almost 91, my sleeves are different colors, and she was like, why are they different colors? Like, is something wrong? And I was like, no, I ran out of yarn right before I finished the sleeve, so I just picked a cool contrast color. And she was like, that's novel. But I was like, this is what happens when you try to make your own clothes. So anyway, fun little feedback on knitting projects from Mary, the 90-year-old beautiful congregant. But yeah, so knitting for me has always been this like whatever beautiful like ASMR, like zone out, tune in thing that I get to do. And so when I was doing that work that I was telling you about, trying to make all my friends through all my like unique passion projects, I remember getting advice from a lot of different friends that already existed in my life at that time. And I was talking to some friends that have like normal jobs, you know, like in business. And one particular friend I was telling like, yeah, I don't know. I like have my hobbies. I'm not quite finding success yet or finding my people through pursuing them. Like, I really wish I could figure it out like in my first months here. And he was like, well, what are your hobbies? I was like, you know, like knitting or like these types of yoga, or like I was weaving in Baltimore before this. Like, I really like to do that again. And he's like, what if you picked hobbies that other people like? He's like, the problem is you're too niche. And I was like, he's like, just pick a different hobby, like become like a beach volleyball person or something, like where there's already like a group and a league and blah, blah. And I was like, no, like I have a different theory of the way the world works. I'm like, I will pursue my like super bizarre hobbies because like it may take longer to find my people, but then when we find each other, Cece, it's like a bizarre explosion of connection. I'm like, that is what I'm waiting for. And like,
and I do knit, but not sweaters.
But, and yeah, so it God is good. Like, your people are always out there. But anyway, I was like really excited about knitting. I went to this yoga thing. Then I found these knitters. And through that group, I learned that there's like a whole economy of wool on Long Island, somehow related in a cosmic way to the like Irish immigrants that primarily settled here when it was first really developing. But like there are actually multiple people raising sheep like 10 to 15 minutes from my house. And I'm not talking like on dramatic farms because Long Island is very densely populated. I'm talking like a neighborhood that just didn't get rezoned from ag. And a woman has like 12 sheep in a pen behind her suburban house. Like it's a really wild and special and bizarre little industry here. So through this knitting group, I got to know more about it. And as I said, the like weird circle of connection just like always continues to churn. And I got to meet other knitters that were also interested in like spirituality and some type of way that wool can help you like meditate, contemplate, pray, provide, especially in female communities, but all kinds of maker communities. The knitting group I belong to is actually run by a very straight man, which is really awesome. But anyway, putting that all together, there was in this knitting group led to opportunities to meet these like farmers and makers, one of whom is a famous actress, Isabella Rossellini, who is very passionate about sheep and wool, and also religion. She was just in the movie Conclave. and played a nun named Saint Agnes, who is a sheep-related saint, i.e. Agnes Day. But anyway, she was like, oh, I would love to have my sheep blessed. Like, do you ever bless animals? And I was like, in fact, we do have a St. Francis blessing. And she's like, great, I will bring my sheep and chickens to your church, which is also on, again, this is all taking place on like random suburban streets. Like, there is no glamour. There's no like 40 acres. This is just like a church among houses. And so she drove her sheep and chickens to my church, and we had them like in the middle of our community for a blessing for the animals. And then because of that, people at the church got really excited, and they were like, what could we do to learn more about this? So now we're taking the whole church to her farm to meet all the sheep and learn about the wool they're producing and how it's providing this kind of like new maker economy in our area. And there are just so many little exciting projects that are coming out of it. But one thing I got to do was go to, they had a retreat at her farm for people that have survived traumatic cancer procedures. And they brought them all from a local hospital to the farm. And they had a day of like embodied processing for what they've been through on their healing journey. And they had the sheep being sheared. They had presentations from surgeons and doctors. And they had a meditation sequence. And then they had me, the local pastor, like assigned to teach like 30 people how to knit at the same time, which was so chaotic, but also kind of beautiful because it was like impossible to do. And it just led to so many people talking to each other. So yeah, knitting has been this weird way to connect with the local community, to connect with the local lambs of God, and to learn about how we can use these silly tools and old folk crafts to help people like embody their spirituality, even if they're not in church. But the long answer to Cece's question is all of this has led to I'm taking a trip to the Faroe Islands to with her to learn about that wool industry. And I have this vision of getting to do some kind of insane spiritual grant project one day where we talk about like what making these like homespun objects can do to lead us to relationship with God or something. I'm still working out the details.
That is amazing.
Sorry, I'm like, obviously I don't do podcasts long. I'm like, I'm going to talk for 10 minutes and you're going to tell me what to do next.
No, that was absolutely incredible and just not what I expected when I thought we're talking to somebody from Long Island. So this is just fabulous. I just love it so much.
Can I just do a pause right here, Phil, before your question? The Faroe Islands, like I just looked it up, are between Iceland and Norway, like out in the ocean. Y'all, like,
yeah, they're the northernmost habitable patch of land before the Arctic Circle.
Like if you, like me, are like, I don't know what that is, I don't know where that is, like I could not pass a world geography exam right now, right? Just that context. All right, back to you, Phil.
No, thank you for, it sounds really cold. I hope that you get to go when it's warm outside. Warmer. I don't know if there is
Claire
warm.
is a snow bunny. She told me that. And I quote.
It's cold, but no, it will be May. But May is good because the sheep will be like at their full powers.
That's amazing. Okay, this is what I want to know. I want to know how all of this has transformed you as a pastor then. And not just you as a pastor, but how is it also, like, what's the ripple effect for it for your congregation, your parish?
It's so funny because I'm like, I do all of this for me so that I can be healthy. But like in the end, I just feel like it's this crazy benefit to the whole community. I mean, it's so cliche, but it's so true that like healthy people living authentic lives create just like ripple effects around them. And I feel like that's a gift that I've been given in this particular place at this particular time in my life. But for the community, I mean, one of the reasons I was drawn to this community, again, this like bizarre NFL draft style mashup of how you get your job in the Lutheran Church was because they had a craft group. And that was really interesting to me because I was like, I like people that use their hands. I think there's something like sacred about that in this AI befuddled world, like using your hands or your body in any way to create something to me is like really intriguing. What's the, from Thessalonians, I mean, we could debate this too, like, but there's a wonderful verse about like living quietly and working with your hands is like the deepest spiritual life. there's beautiful writing about what it means to like have a craft in First Thessalonians. I think it's first, not second. But anyway, letters to the Thessalonians. And I just have always found that I also have a side hustle baking sourdough bread in the mornings. And that's like a huge prayer practice for me, just like sinking my hands in dough. I'm just fascinated by like God gave us Eucharist that we need to like create ourselves. And there's something that it's so clear that we must be creating things and making things to be fully in touch with like the deepest, most physical, embodied, incarnate presence of Christ. So anyway, I saw that in the paragraph of description about this church that I was looking at when they're like, we have a craft group. And I was like, that's really interesting to me. Like people are using their hands to make things for God. This craft group, so intriguing to me. I was like, this is really special and old school in a way that I want to fully get inside of. Like, I want to be part of this. I want to know what's going on here. And indeed, this congregation has a special gift of wanting to build things themselves, make things themselves. And I've just tried to lean into that as much as possible, not only in like, can we make, cool altar pieces, or like, could we build that ramp in the back of a church instead of hiring a contractor to do it? Those types of things, but also on like a more kind of mystical level, like becoming comfortable as a congregation with trying to make as much as we can with ourselves, like getting people to embody as much of what church is as possible. And right now in the season of Lent, that looks like doing dramatized readings of the gospel every week. So we've been taking all these dialogue heavy stories with Jesus and putting extremely amateur actors into all of those roles and performing the gospel, like unfolding in the center of the congregation, like moving around the space. We've also started to have children say like way more of the prayers of the service. So they're like part of the children's sermon, but they're also like taking on the Lord be with you right before the Eucharist. And like really getting them to experience the coolest things that I feel about what it's like to be in the center of this liturgy unfolding. Like basically just trying to become comfortable with the chaos of like amateur work and the chaos of embodiment, and do as much as we can as a community to make things together. Another huge goal that we've set up recently, we've been working on this strategic plan, and one thing that came out of it was a 15-year-old proposed that we should become leaders of environmental justice because she was really excited that we just put solar panels on our roof. But now that's manifesting in so many interesting ways. Like, how can we wash everything again instead of buying disposable products for community meals? Like, how can we dishwash again? Like everyone as a community. How can we take more ownership of our bulletins? Just trying to figure out different ways for everyone to embody the church again.
I'm going to jump in real fast and say it's 1 Thessalonians 4:11, to aspire to live quietly, to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we directed you. Love it. That's new to me. Love it.
Yeah, 1 Thessalonians is a banger.
If that's not painted on your church wall by the end of the year, like, we're going to have to come up there and paint it. You know what I'm saying? Like, spray.
Well, actually, no, like, I'm really over the top with trying to get people to read that book. So when I got married, it's on my 1 Thessalonians 3:9 is my husband and I's wedding verse. How can I thank God for all the joy that I feel before my God because of you? So our whole wedding thing was for all the joy. And to celebrate our wedding, which took place a year and a half after me being here, we bought a copy of 1 Thessalonians for every member of the congregation. Because I was like, listen, this book, I mean, there are problems with it. Like, they're not, like, obviously every one of Paul's instructions can't be perfectly followed or should be, but there's so much like beautiful poetry about the expression of an embodied Christian life. So I'm always trying to I was like, I'm buying everyone a copy of this. Like, we're reading it. It's great.
Claire, can you talk with me a little bit about a conversation we were having offline about, like, you're just, I don't know, curiosity and right now, like, love of Paul's letters, but specifically through the lens of AI. You kind of talked about it a little bit, and as this rise of AI, this overwhelming time of technology, and we were just having the most fascinating conversation, like in between things over text. Like I was like, okay, I really need to go mow my lawn now.
Yeah,
like, okay, Godspeed.
Yeah, like how can I distill all these thoughts I'm having about this? Like, whatever. Anyway, yeah, okay. I'll try to keep it like reasonable because I'm like hyped about this right now.
Take the time.
This is another one of my like obsessions of the moment. But like First Thessalonians is a great example, but I've been like really fascinated about Paul's letters, not because of like, I feel like obviously we're all Christians, like it's a huge part of our canon. There's a lot of reasons to read Paul, blah, blah, blah. Like he's an important thinker, da, da, da. But specifically, I've been thinking a lot about Paul's letters lately because I feel like this podcast that we're doing is a great example of how I feel like the church is able to connect across space and time in a really new way that it never has before. And I think we're building a new form of the church by being able to have such meaningful and deep community accessibility across regions. Like that, I'm doing a podcast with people from Texas and it's like we're all on video and more present to each other than ever and can like feasibly do projects together. That's making me think a lot about what Paul was getting to experience when Christian communities were popping up across the Roman Empire and there was this possibility of sending good letters that could actually be like read, shared, preserved. I've been like, actually, Paul might understand a lot about what it's like to suddenly have this really good medium of sharing church together across time and space. So I've just been thinking a lot of lately about these little tiny beautiful expressions of that work that he was doing to connect disparate communities and really focusing on that. Like, how can his ancient experience of that speak to me now as a young person about the amount of technology that I rely on to do the work of the church that I'm doing? I don't really know the answer, but I'm like, Paul knew something about what it was like to try and get a message to build a community and to be meaningfully in touch with its culture, even though he was living in a different place. So I've been obsessed with like, I did a whole postcard writing campaign for my Gather Young Adult group to try and get them sharing spiritual questions like Paul did, like across community and debating justice and how it's occurring where they are. Like, I'm just so fascinated about letters, about Zoom, about ways that we're trying to like express Christ to each other in this like highly technical world we now live in. I'm like, Paul knew something about that. And okay, so here's my last point. I'm wrapping it up, I swear. Here's what Paul is: the least AI, but also the most AI. Because he's like the person we love to hate for being as human as he was and setting up a lot of theological problems for us that we've been debating for centuries. Like, what gets more human than getting it wrong? But then also, he was a connector and a translator and like a missionary and a technological medium through his letters, which is like the most AI, the most Zoom, the most like trying to standardize a message. Like, I'm just so fascinated by that, like what that speaks into this moment.
This is amazing. I literally was just having this conversation with a pastor friend of mine last week.
Okay, great. Let's have a Zoom call about it.
Like literally Paul, and like her argument back was that, you know, Paul's so often writing like how I wish to be with you, right? And like this sense of embodiment and like the still value of nearness and presence. And I was like, yeah, I hear that, but also that only worked because there was the embrace of technology, right? Like there was, we would call it an ancient technology now, but like there's still this recognition of how do we use technology to enhance. And, you know, in a lot of ways, he was like a remote pastor, you know, like which required leadership on behalf of the church without their kind of like quote planter or leader. Like there's a whole lot here to unpack, Claire. We could probably have a whole podcast. Maybe we'll have you back just to do a whole episode on like technology and AI. But have you always been curious about technology and these kind of things?
I would consider myself kind of anti-technology. I'm like, part of what draws me to the church, like my church has no screens in it. We even like hide the TV in the fellowship hall because I'm like, having a black screen in the fellowship hall to me is like a negative energy. Like, I'm that type of pastor. At the same time, we like broadcast everything on Zoom. We have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we do all this. We're trying to start a Discord, we're working on a church app. Like, I'm living into the paradox of I want to do as much as a person to sing in 4-part harmony and cook for each other and freaking wash dishes. And I want like people that are homebound to have the most sophisticated digital interface to belong to the community as possible. Like, I'm both.
Can I ask what do you think is the greatest fear of the embrace of technology and the way that it's emerging for the church?
Loneliness, isolation, inequality. I think we're afraid that, and we see it with, like, again, I consider myself like, I love neurodivergence. I actually think one of the gifts I've been given is like working well with a wide range of neurodivergent people. That's always been a thing that I love, crave, thrive in. And I see one of the members of my community who is like medically disabled due to his autism struggles more than I do to control his phone use, and struggles to like navigate that versus like social anxiety and community belonging. And so that's like an interesting problem. I don't want him to be impeded from getting to interact with the whole community because of this like particular device and its structure and addictive quality. But I also think that for a mom who's really engaged in caring for her children and can't be as physically present or mobile, to have like a Bible study she could tap into remotely and still feel like she's getting a lot of attention, like it's the same tool. So it's just such a complex question. Like, I think we're afraid of distancing from each other, but I think we're at the beginning of a revolution of how to remain connected rather than isolated with this technology. And I think we're just like babies, like we haven't figured it out yet. Like, there's going to be so much more that we do to understand that. But right now, I think a lot of the fear is how it will make us more separate, which is legitimate.
Well said.
I don't even know what to ask at this point, Claire. Just like, can I just ask no question and you like spout wisdom at us? Like, I don't know. I think we are sitting in like the last full week of Lent. And so one of the things we've done on this podcast during the season of Lent is ask about Lenten disciplines for our guests. And so I guess that's my question. And also like, how you feeling? Holy Week's coming. Our prayers are literally with you, actually.
Cece saying this because Cece did such a Hail Mary for me by like doing a creative reflection on every reading of the Easter Vigil to like help me be inspired and connected to the like deepest beauty of this liturgy. So thank you. This direct
nice job, Cece.
A liturgist consultant, hire me.
I'm feeling really great about Holy Week because Cece has given me her brain. But no,
AI brain. It's now yours, Claire.
Uploaded right into the cloud.
Yeah, in the same way that I feel like being addicted to the high of a Sunday morning is like the greatest gift of being a pastor, and like this constant like propelling like engine that makes everything fascinating and worthwhile. I feel the same about Holy Week. Like, what a treasure that we can count on this sacred force and just like flow with this series of beautiful stories and incredibly deep emotions. Like, I'm so hyped for Holy Week, you guys. Like, it's my community has been going through a lot, and I'm so grateful that every raw emotion can just erupt in Holy Week and be completely contained and welcomed. So I'm excited for that. My practices for Lent are like boring. I tend to do the same things. I always give up sugar, which is like kind of non-Lutheran because it's so like fast focused. But for me, it is just like the thing that I found that allows me to like, again, connect with that embodied spirituality that I care about and question my habits. But I was just talking to a congregant who had tried being vegan for Lent, and that fasting practice did not work for them. And we were really talking about what it means to do anything embodied like that, and kind of resolved that the coolest outcome of any Lenten practice is like opening a question that you can keep asking over years. Like, to pick something so deep and complex for you that you're asking ethical questions, you're asking questions about your daily life and whether this is achievable. Like, if you pick a Lenten practice that doesn't go perfectly your first 40 days trying it, and you might have to work like 10 years of asking deep questions about it, like, amazing. Like, if you fail in your first 40 days of a Lenten practice, I think that's a greater spiritual success, because you've identified like something that is elusive and deep and serious that you have to keep wondering about. Like, to me, that as a pastor, that's what I would want for everyone. Like, pick a Lenten practice that's really not perfect the first time, but that takes you to a deeper question. Like, great, that's amazing. That's always the goal for me. So for me right now, shout out to another amazing Lutheran person from the Gather Network, Elizabeth Gilbert, who gives up her car.
She's been on the pod. Shout out.
Okay, who has given up her car for Lent, which in radical solidarity with the poor. And that's where I want to get. I am not there. I was like, what if I tried that? And that is very, very, very hard for me. Obviously, like, suburban conditions make it harder, but like, there are way more times I could be walking and biking than I am. And for whatever reason, my convenience, my poor planning, my stress, blah, 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 not. So like, that for me is the 10-year practice. And sugar was a 10-year practice I started when I was like 18 or whatever.
Claire, thank you for your vulnerability, for your curiosity, and ultimately for showing up to share with us. And I'm inspired by, I've never been to Long Island, and now I feel like I have to come to Long Island and find the sheep. Like, that's now that's now on my bucket list.
We have 2 bedrooms and a beach. It's great for kids. It's great for adults. Whatever you need, come visit.
That's amazing.
And vice versa. You bring in the chicks and wide open spaces. And
right.
I got extra bedrooms. You know my offer. We got a truck you can
Texas
drive.
is here.
Right? Like,
no, we're manifesting it. We're manifesting it. This is what Paul wanted. This is.
I mean, also,
we're doing it for Paul.
I have been to New York, so.
Okay, so it's definitely on me.
Paul's in your court. I'm kidding.
Oh, I've been wanting to go to Austin specifically for the co-chapel for years. So I'm coming. We're doing it. It's on the short list.
We're doing it. Yeah, Claire, thank you. Truly, like, what a gift it is to know you, to call you friend, and to hear this reminder of, like, to be a healthy, to be a whole, to be a person, not just a pastor, not just doing the job, but like seeking to be the child of God with the gifts that you have, leads to an authentic, manifestation of God's good work in the world. And I'm inspired. And we're just so grateful for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me spam you with all the thoughts that I have, that I've been collecting. This was awesome. I feel like this is almost as good as a Sunday morning, you guys.
Aww. A podcast high.
Podcast high. Yeah. Thanks, Claire. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Collective Voice, the premier podcast of the 787 Collective. For more information, visit us at 787collective.org or find us on social media. And if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate us, and share a review. For when you do, you're tricking the algorithm for the common good.